Hey, today I'm going to do an info dump about vampires. If you're watching this, congratulations. The ride will not stop until you agree with me. Let's go! Every human culture has their boogeyman, and many of them drink blood. Apparently, people are afraid of that sort of thing. Depending on where you go, vampires emerge in every culture. Does this mean they actually exist? Probably not. When I mention the first vampire, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Did you say Bram Stoker's Dracula? You're wrong! Let's talk about Varney. Published as a penny dreadful in 1845, Varney was a generally unflattering caricature of a fictional British nobleman by the name of Sir Francis Varney. Varney was vain, cruel, hypnotic, rich, strong, and generally spent most of his time being a pest to everybody around him.
Why are you telling us all of this? This was supposed to be an essay on media representation.
Shut up, I'm getting to it! Anyways, Varney manifested as a reflection upon the British nobility at the time. General working class sentiment has always invariably referred to the good-for-nothing nobility as quote-unquote bleeding us dry. Vampirism is, ultimately, the dramatic completion of this belief. With over 600,000 words, Varney is by far the longest vampire story. But it's also a serialized work that was mass-produced for lowbrow consumption by working-class individuals. Ultimately, Varney's cultural and political impact is rather limited. A caricature of a greedy, obnoxious nobleman who terrorizes a good, well-to-do family for their blood and money. Class consciousness is apparent to Varney, a key part for the reason for his inclusion in this essay on representation.
Okay, but that's like a very limited example. Surely you don't have more examples of vampires as a stand-in for a target of ridicule.
You're right. Unfortunately, there's actually no vampire media other than Varney the Vampire. It's the only one of its kind, hence the reason why he's called the Vampire. It's a shame, because I really would have liked to have this essay be written on... What's that? Carmilla? Oh! Carmilla! Yeah! Move over, straight guys. Carmilla was published in 1872. Despite being written, like something one of my friends on Discord would write, it is actually written by a Irish Catholic man. And involves the deeply deceased Countess Carmilla Karnstein and her lesbian paramour Laura. For the time, it's actually quite an interesting depiction of sexuality and gender roles in Gothic fiction. Laura and Carmilla are characters unto themselves, as opposed to the usual assumptions about women in the time. That is, their purpose begins and ends at their utility to men. Conversely, male characters in the story are stupid, useless, and ignorant. Yet, the monster is essentially an expression of deep-seated representations of sexuality and gender. Ultimately, Carmilla is killed, and Laura returns to her everyday life, never fully recovering from being exposed to something as shocking as lesbian love. Her sexuality is an accessory to her being a monster, and it's viewed as an aberration in the text. Control your women, fellas, lest they fall into the clutches of an ancient undead creature and become gay. And speaking of homosexuality and vampires, we have to address the bat in the room. Right on the heels of Carmilla, another Irish author would publish a little-known story in 1897. It's called Dracula. You may have heard of it. Dracula is a complex novel to analyze from a socio-political perspective. It touches on themes of xenophobia, the weakness and helplessness of women, and a potent amount of homoerotic subtext between the main characters and a wealthy, influential Romanian recluse. The novel accentuates the differences between the proper lifestyle, the deeply religious and dutiful British main cast, versus the wild and hedonistic lifestyle of the implicitly pagan, foreign bisexual that must flee from holy symbols. The homoerotic subtext of Dracula feeding upon men and the intimacy of the embrace betrays certain views at the time about homosexuality. After all, only a weirdo Romanian count would nibble at the necks of other men. Am I right, fellas? Bram Stoker is implied to have been a closeted homosexual. Well, we were all thinking, gee, this isn't nearly racist enough. Let's get 1920s Germany involved, right? Right? No? Nobody? Well, too bad. The 1922 silent film Nosferatu came out as an unauthorized ripoff of Dracula. Nosferatu did the bold and interesting thing of ditching all of that exploration of working-class sentiment, sexuality, and attractively morally complex villains, and instead front-loading so many offensive stereotypes of the time to not only earn simply a cease and desist from the Stoker estate, but in order that all original copies of the film were to be destroyed. Nosferatu moves the story of Dracula from being about a Romanian count moving to London to the fictional town of Wisborg, Germany. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed protagonist Thomas Hutter and his pretty young wife live in idyllic, beautiful Germany until Hutter's sleazy landlord/moneylender boss sends him to meet with the mysterious Count Orlok and sell him a house right across from Hutter's own house. Hutter travels to Romania and meets with a hook-nosed, sleazy, greedy, rapey rat man who brings disease and only wants to go to Wisborg to feed upon Hutter's young wife. Yes, really, it's that on the nose. This pre-Hitler German film literally took the story of Dracula and said, there are wealthy, freaky perverts who look like these racist 1920 depictions of minorities, especially Jews, that are coming to your country to spread disease and violate your women, and the landlords and moneylenders are inviting them in. Very based, Herr Murnau. Finally, we arrive in the present day, over 100 years hence the release of Nosferatu, and we come to the recent Michael B. Jordan movie Sinners. Sinners is a movie about 1920s African-American culture, delving into the complex relationship between music, community, violence, religion, sensuality, and race in a small town. It also, technically, has vampires. Most notably, when the African-American community engages in a night of celebration of their culture and history, a white vampire and his quote-unquote reformed Klansmen friends arrive to try to convert and integrate the community into the ranks of the undead. The film is, unironically, one of the most evocative period pieces and one of the most hauntingly beautiful movies I've ever seen, as well as being one of the most transparently self-indulgent films, as Michael B. Jordan plays two identical twins so as to experience both sides of the story. This is not a mark against it. The movie is so good that I'm not even mad that it ends with the protagonist mowing down an entire truckload of Klansmen with an automatic rifle in a shot that wouldn't be out of place in Django Unchained. The metaphor of the lie of Americanization is the crux of the story, with the vampires representing the sublimation of minority cultures into a disingenuous milieu that controls and limits the African-American voice for the benefit of the white ringleader. As the numbers of the undead swell, the Irish vampire appeals to the idea of unity as being a universal good, hypocritically ranting against the Catholicization of Ireland while actively absorbing the African-American community. One of the more salient points in the movie of this is when the traditional African-American dance and song is co-opted for the now converted vampires dancing around to an Irish jig sung by the leader Rannoch. The entire film focuses on a symbolic representation of how the idea of integration and the melting pot only really works one way. The expression of African-American voices and culture is only beneficial so long as it can be controlled by a white leader. The entire film focuses on the idea of integration as being a tool that is only useful for the white American people. That the African Americans are useful only as their utility to a white center. The film focuses on the fact that integration is, in general, used as a tool for suppression. That there is no appreciation among the white man for the culture of the African American. That they are better as a symbolic utility to the white man rather than being someone worthy of respect. There is no effort by the undead to integrate to the African-American culture. It is instead they are absorbed by this ancient undead plague. We are our monsters. I could go on and on about how movie monsters either directly or subconsciously demonstrate our society's fears and values. How it is man that man fears and hates more than anything else, and thus the monster must always have the traits of man in order to be feared or reviled. Without any doubt, as the most human of those monsters, vampires are our reflection. They are sexually, socially, and racially the other, and the things that make them monstrous are traits we fear and hate in ourselves. Ironic, then, that vampires cannot see their reflections, when we are the ones who fear what we see in the mirror.